Hello everyone, this is Wenting. Today I want to show you a really nice Notion trick using formula. I use formula to create a world clock for my students who is spread around the globe because of the COVID situation. I also intended to use this for my work as well because I work in an international team and I don't want to interrupt my coworkers while they're asleep. So I think this could be helpful for many of you, so I would like to share. First, let me give you a little tour about how this thing works. In the end, we're going to have a mega formula that have just everything we need to create this column called local time. But I'm going to do it in a step-by-step fashion. So we're going to create a lot of intermediate steps. We're not going to write this whole formula at one go. So here we go. First, we need to have two columns, the name column and then the time zone column. I, for example, are in the EST time zone, so that would be my local time. Let's first try a formula. It's called now. Now is a function to output your local time in a standard format. So now let's take another formula called hour. Hour would output the hour number of the current time. So you can pass in now as a parameter to the hour function. It will do the 24-hour format, so it's not going to be based on a 12-hour. If now is 6 p.m., it would be 18, for example. And similarly, we can also output the minute number similarly using a minute function, pass in the now function's results as a parameter inside of the parentheses. The next thing is to create a duplicate of the hour, and then let's call it offset. Offset is a formula based on the time zone. So let's move that next to the time zone. We're going to manually set in the offset hours for each of the time zone. So let's first check if any of the time zone is PST, for example, and then we can say how much offset would that be for PST time zone. So let's say prop time zone equal to PST, and certainly some of them are. If that is true, then we're going to output -3 because PST is 3 hours late compared to my local time zone EST. With a similar function, we can also create all the other formula offset for CST, which is China Standard Time, or KST or GMT. We can create them one by one. It is all based off your local time zone, so you can adjust based on how many offset would that be compared to your local time zone. And to make them distinctive from each other, I will also name the offset with a parenthesis KST as example or CST. Now I'm just duplicating the formula column and create them one by one. Like I said, in the end, all of those intermediate steps would be deleted. I just want to make sure this is comprehensive and not jumping into too many steps. So we're doing this step by step. So now we have the offset for all of the available time zone. Based on how many time zones that you have, then you would have a column formula for each of them. And you can tell that if it is that time zone, it's going to output the offset hours. If it's not, then it's going to be 0. So the idea is that we are going to create a mega offset, the total offset, and that is just the total of each of the columns to add them together, basically. So we're adding PST and CST and KST and GMT, adding all of them together. So that will correctly reflect each of the time zones offsetting hours. And here we go. I'm on the EST, so the offset from EST will be 0, but PST will be 3, a -3, and China Standard Time will be 13 hours, Korean will be 14 hours, etc. So now we need to add hour to offset. So we're going to create a new column called local hour. Local hour is the sum of the hour plus offset. So here we have some number, but some of them are wrong because they're larger than 24. For example, 31. 31 should be, ideally should be 7. So we can do something called a remainder operation, really simply. Just divide it by 24, and what is the remainder of that calculation would be the number that we want. So with this operation, remainder operation, we get the correct local hour from all of the time zone. Now what's rest is really simple. We can create another column called local time. That's our final column, final formula, and that is adding hour plus minute and adding a semicolon in the middle. The only problem here is that hour, local hour or minute, they're both a number, not a text. So we cannot use concat to simply put them together. A simple way to fix that is to use a format function. We need to format those numbers into a text. So let's use format and put in a parameter of the local hour, and that would convert 18 to a text 18, not the number 18. And then we're gonna concat them with a semicolon in the middle, and then the minute. Now that's the parameter section of the formatting. Then we use a concat and then put in what we had before, and there we go. We have the local time. That's our end goal, but we do have a lot of intermediate formula that we rely on, making this setup a little bit messy. By the way, the time will refresh every time you enter this page or you refresh the page. So when you come here, it should reflect the correct time, but it won't refresh when you're just staying there. Now let's get rid of all those intermediate formula step by step. The first one that I want to get rid of is all of the local offset column, because the total offset is just adding all of them together. So a simple way to getting rid of offset PST is to copy the formula to replace their place in the offset total formula. And similarly, we can do it for CST, copy this formula and go to the offset and select the prop offset CST and putting a parentheses and putting that formula inside. Having the parentheses will safeguard the integrity of that calculation. It's always a good idea to put a parentheses to kind of make them as a whole, added them as a whole. So it's to save to delete all of the local offset. The last one is a GMT. I'm doing basically the same thing to get rid of that as well. So now we have this offset total offset formula. Now is to get rid of that as well. So step by step, we're putting the final mega formula together by getting rid of the intermediate ones. So the local time has two parts, the local hour and the local, not the local minute, but just a minute. The local hour is hour plus offset. We can get rid of offset by replacing the property offset in the local hour formula in just the same way. And we don't need hour as well because we're directly using the hour formula, so we can just get rid of that. And the last one would be getting rid of the minute, which is quite simple. Going to the local time, replace the local hour with the mega formula that we have, and then delete the local hour and delete the local minute. I like to do this for if I'm writing super complicated formula. The formula usually take a multi-step. I would like to create them one by one and then replace them. This way I'm not confused by it and I still can create pretty complicated formula but with a clear head. So that's it. Thank you so much for watching.